Ancient Egypt, a land of pharaohs and pyramids, gods and goddesses, holds many mysteries. This ancient civilization, with its grand monuments and rich history, continues to captivate our imaginations. The stories of its rulers, their triumphs and their downfalls are woven into the very fabric of human history. Few are as intriguing as the story of Akhenaten, the heretic pharaoh. His life and reign are shrouded in both mystery and controversy, making him one of the most enigmatic figures of ancient Egypt. Born Amenhotep IV, he was destined for greatness, a destiny that was written in the stars and foretold by the priests. From a young age, he was groomed to follow in the footsteps of his illustrious ancestors. As the son of the powerful Pharaoh Amenhotep III, his path seemed clear. Amenhotep III was a ruler of immense power and influence, known for his architectural achievements and the prosperity of his reign. We know little of his childhood spent in the splendor of the royal court. Surrounded by opulence, he would have been educated in the ways of governance, religion and warfare, preparing him for the throne. However, the seeds of change, the seeds of revolution, were likely sown even then. The young prince, observing the world around him, may have begun to question the established order. Akhenaten would grow to challenge the very foundations of Egyptian religion and society. His vision was radical, his methods unorthodox, and his impact profound. His reign, though brief, left an indelible mark on history. Akhenaten's efforts to reshape Egyptian religion and culture were met with resistance, but they also sparked a period of intense creativity and change. Imagine the young prince surrounded by luxury, yet feeling the stirrings of a different vision. The grandeur of the palace, the wealth of the kingdom, all contrasted with the weight of tradition and the expectations placed upon him, but also by the weight of tradition. The ancient customs and beliefs that had been upheld for millennia were not easily challenged. Ancient Egypt was deeply religious, with a pantheon of gods worshipped for millennia. The gods were believed to control every aspect of life, from the flooding of the Nile to the success of the harvest. The most powerful among them was Amun, the king of the gods. Amun's cult was centered in Thebes, and his temple at Karnak was one of the most important religious sites in Egypt. Priests dedicated to Amun wielded significant influence. They were not only religious leaders, but also political power brokers, controlling vast resources and commanding great respect. It was into this world, steeped in tradition and dominated by powerful priests, that Akhenaten was born. His upbringing would have been steeped in the rituals and ceremonies of the time, yet he would come to question and ultimately reject much of what he was taught. His journey, from prince to pharaoh to religious revolutionary, is a story of ambition, faith, and ultimately tragedy. Akhenaten's legacy is a testament to the power of vision and the cost of challenging the status quo. His life reminds us that even in the most rigid of societies, change is always possible, though it often comes at a great price. Upon the death of Amenhotep III, Egypt entered a new era. His son, now Akhenaten, ascended the throne. Initially, he ruled as Amenhotep IV, suggesting a continuation of his father's policies. However, change was in the air. The young pharaoh harbored radical ideas, a desire to reshape Egypt's spiritual landscape. This desire would soon manifest itself in a dramatic and unprecedented way. The early years of Akhenaten's reign saw subtle shifts in religious practice. Aten, the sun disk, a relatively minor deity, previously gained prominence. Aten was not simply the sun, he was the source of all life, the creator of everything. Akhenaten's fascination with Aten grew, evolving into a fervent, singular devotion. This devotion would culminate in a religious revolution, a dramatic shift from the polytheistic traditions of Egypt to a new monotheistic faith centered on the Aten. Akhenaten's reign marked a turning point in Egyptian history. His rule was not just another chapter in the long saga of the pharaohs, it was a dramatic shift that would leave an indelible mark on the cultural and religious landscape of ancient Egypt. He ushered in a new era, one defined by the worship of a single god, Aten. This was a revolutionary concept in a land where a multitude of gods and goddesses had been worshipped for millennia. The sun disk, Aten, became the central figure of this new monotheistic faith. This was a radical departure from the traditional polytheism of Egypt. The pantheon of gods, each with their own domains and stories, was suddenly overshadowed by the singular worship of Aten. The temples that once echoed with prayers to many deities now focus solely on the sun god. The pharaoh elevated Aten to the supreme god, the creator and sustainer of all life. In Akhenaten's vision, Aten was not just another deity, but the ultimate source of all existence. The rays of the sun, depicted as hands, symbolized Aten's direct connection to the people and the pharaoh himself. This wasn't just a change in worship, it was a complete overhaul of the religious landscape. The traditional temples were repurposed or abandoned, and new ones dedicated to Aten were constructed. Akhenaten and his queen, Nefertiti, were often depicted in art as the primary worshippers of Aten, emphasizing their divine connection. Akhenaten proclaimed that Aten was the only true god, the source of all light and life. This proclamation was not merely a religious statement, but a political one, as it centralized religious power in the hands of the pharaoh and his close circle. He dismissed the other gods, including the powerful Amun. The cult of Amun had been one of the most influential in Egypt, with its priests wielding significant power and wealth. By sidelining Amun, Akhenaten was challenging a deeply entrenched institution. This was a bold and dangerous move. Akhenaten's decrees were not just about religious preference. They were about consolidating power and reshaping the very identity of Egypt. The pharaoh's vision was clear, but the path was fraught with peril. The priests of Amun, who had amassed power and wealth over centuries, were not pleased. They saw Akhenaten's reforms as a direct threat to their authority and influence. The tension between the pharaoh and the priesthood grew, creating an undercurrent of resistance. They resisted the pharaoh's reforms, but Akhenaten was determined. He believed in his divine mission to elevate Aten above all other gods and was willing to face opposition head-on. The conflict between the old and new ways of worship became a defining feature of his reign. He would enforce the worship of Aten with unwavering zeal, even if it meant challenging the very fabric of Egyptian society. Akhenaten's legacy is a testament to his radical vision and the profound impact it had on the history of ancient Egypt. His reign, though controversial, paved the way for future generations to reconsider the nature of divinity and power. Section 4. Breaking with tradition. The pharaoh challenges the priests of Amun. The clash between Akhenaten and the priests of Amun was inevitable. The pharaoh's reforms threatened their power and influence. Temples dedicated to Amun were closed, and his priests were stripped of their authority. This caused widespread unrest, particularly in Thebes, the center of Amun's worship. Akhenaten, however, remained undeterred. He was determined to break the hold of the Amun priesthood and establish the supremacy of Aten. To further solidify Aten's dominance, Akhenaten took a drastic step. He ordered the construction of a new capital city, Akhetaten, meaning horizon of the Aten. This city, located in Middle Egypt, was dedicated entirely to the worship of the sun god. It became a symbol of Akhenaten's new religion, a physical manifestation of his break from tradition. Section 5. A city forged in faith, the splendor and short life of Amarna. Akhenaten's new capital, known today as Amarna, rose from the desert sands. This city was not just another settlement, it was a bold statement, a physical manifestation of Akhenaten's revolutionary ideas and his devotion to the sun god, Aten. It was a city unlike any other in Egypt, designed to be open to the sun, to bask in the glory of Aten. The wide avenues and open-air temples were a stark contrast to the dark, enclosed sanctuaries of traditional Egyptian cities. The city was a testament to Akhenaten's vision, a place where the traditional constraints of Egyptian architecture were cast aside. Instead of the usual massive stone structures, Amarna featured lighter, more airy designs that allowed sunlight to flood the spaces. Temples were open to the sky, allowing the sun's rays to bathe the altars. This architectural choice was not merely aesthetic, it was deeply symbolic, reflecting the central role of the sun in Akhenaten's religious reforms. Amarna was more than just a new capital, it was a statement. It was a city built from scratch in a location that had no previous religious or political significance, chosen specifically to break away from the past. It was a rejection of the old ways, a symbol of Akhenaten's commitment to his new religion. The city was adorned with symbols of Aten, and the traditional gods of Egypt were conspicuously absent. The city flourished for a time, becoming a bustling center of activity. Art, culture, and religion all thrived under the watchful eye of the sun god. Amarna was a place of innovation and change where new ideas could take root and grow. But its fate was tied to that of its founder. When Akhenaten's reign ended, so too did the glory of Amarna. The city, once vibrant and full of life, began to decline rapidly. The city was abandoned, its temples left to crumble under the desert sun. The new rulers of Egypt had no interest in maintaining Akhenaten's vision, and Amarna was left to the sands of time. Yet, even in ruins, Amarna stands as a testament to the revolutionary vision of Akhenaten. Its remains tell the story of a brief but brilliant chapter in Egyptian history, a time when one man dared to dream of a different world. Section 6. Images of a revolution art in the Age of Akhenaten. Akhenaten's religious revolution was not confined to temples and pronouncements. It permeated every aspect of Egyptian life, including art. Under his patronage, a new artistic style emerged, one that broke with the rigid conventions of the past. This Amarna style, as it became known, was characterized by a new realism, a sense of movement, and a focus on the natural world. Gone were the idealized, static figures of earlier Egyptian art. In their place were more naturalistic depictions of the human form. Akhenaten himself was often portrayed with elongated features, a drooping jaw and a prominent belly. This departure from traditional representations of the pharaoh shocked many. Some scholars believe it reflected a new emphasis on truth in art, while others speculate it may have been due to a genetic condition.